Once upon a time, there was a young woman who wanted to see the world. She wanted to go very far, so she packed only a small backpack, and she set off. She wandered through vast prairies. She passed mountains. She saw forests with enormous tall trees. She saw big lakes and small ponds and little streams and great rivers. And she met many different people. And she stayed with them when she could and learned what she could from them. And her story bag began to fill. She had a tiny pine cone collected beside a river where she had attended a gathering of people who came together to dance and to sing and to play. And she had a shimmery little piece of clamshell that she found on an island in the middle of the lake where she had gone to visit with a group who lived there, and many other things. She wandered so far, and just before she turned around, she had an experience that really changed her. She had finally gone far enough that people spoke a different language, and she didn't understand what was going on around her. Still, the people took her in, and they were very kind to her. They fed her, and they gave her a place to stay, and she helped them and watched their lives. One evening, she sat with them in a circle around a fire, and she could tell that they were telling stories. One person was speaking, and everyone else was watching them, and once in a while, everyone would laugh. She was completely carried away by the mood and wished so much she could understand what was being said. She thought about that throughout the night, and when she got up in the morning, she went out looking for a translator. She wandered around, saying hello to people, until someone finally said hello back to her in her own language. He didn't speak fluently, but he certainly spoke well enough that she could understand him and he could understand her. She told him that more than anything, she wanted to understand the stories. And in the evenings, they would circle up and tell stories, and the translator would make sure that she understood. And she listened very carefully and did her best to remember the stories as they were told, because she knew that she was going to carry them home and share them with her own family and friends. And she would gather little objects and put them in her bag, just as she had for adventures she'd had herself. Well, it was time for her to go home. And when she finally got home, her family and friends came together, and everyone brought something delicious to eat, and they feasted. And after that, they sat in a circle, and the young woman began to tell her stories. These are not my own adventures. These are stories I could never have made up, because they come from people who think differently than we do. People who know different things about the world than what we know. Listen carefully, because these stories will expand our minds and grow our hearts. Are you ready? Now listen.